welcome Shelley McKinley.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is fantastic to be here at Universe. This is truly one of my favorite days of the year. We're diving into a subject today that's crucial for all of us: the adoption of cutting-edge technology, artificial intelligence tools in regulated industries. Whether it's financial services, healthcare, telecommunications, energy, or beyond, regulated industries are the backbone of our global economy. They're the stewards of our savings, our health information, and our essential services. But these industries face unique challenges, needing to accelerate adoption at the same time they maintain strict regulatory environments. At GitHub, we partner with these organizations, helping them adopt secure, compliant, and innovative software that underpins their critical offerings. Today, with GitHub's Chief Revenue Officer, Elizabeth, and Sandhya from JPMorgan Chase, we'll explore how organizations in regulated industries can responsibly scale. And it's no secret that these organizations in healthcare, energy, and financial services face added layers of complexity when they are trying to adopt AI. Yet, they're also amongst the most enthusiastic about AI's potential. From achieving massive productivity gains to reducing human error and maintaining competitiveness and driving human progress. For regulated industries which process trillions of financial transactions or handle sensitive healthcare data, the stakes are incredibly high. These sensitivities demand that our customers in these industries ensure AI doesn't just deliver innovative solutions, but that these solutions are also built securely with the needs of their industry in mind. To do that, there are some significant considerations. First, responsible AI. Specifically, do you know how an AI solution was built, and can you trust it? Second, audit rights and resiliency. Will you be able to satisfy your compliance obligations? Third, data transparency. Do you know where your data will be stored, and do you know how it will be used? And finally, does your vendor have a track record of listening to your concerns, acting on them, and backing them up with contractual commitments? Industries on their journey are quickly having to unpack all of these considerations. And their technical partners play a key role in helping think through how various components will help customers meet these requirements and demonstrate that AI solutions are secure, safe, and trustworthy. Some examples of how we do this at GitHub include, in tandem with Microsoft, our responsible AI story is built with earning our customers' trust in mind. We develop our products using Microsoft's AI standard, where we map, we manage, and we measure risks during the development lifecycle. We offer indemnity coverage for Copilot, ensuring enterprise customers are shielded from potential risks associated with copyright infringement. We offer solutions for auditability. Both GitHub Enterprise Cloud and GitHub Copilot have received the ISO 27001 certification, and both go through an annual SOC 2 Type 2 audit process. Customers can access these reports from within their administrative interface along with other peace-of-mind documents, like our penetration test summaries and our business continuity plan. And on data transparency, we've offered industry-leading resources through our GitHub Copilot Trust Center. The Trust Center is a hub with compliance materials and information on topics like responsible AI, security, privacy, specifically tailored to help customers meet these regulatory requirements and to support your business objectives. So as you figure out how to scale AI, it's key you find a technical partner who will help navigate all of these complexities. And when we're speaking of complexity, let's talk about the current dynamic regulatory landscape and how you can work through it when you scale AI. GitHub can help customers meet these robust governance requirements necessary to adopt AI, helping the business benefit from the technology. At GitHub, we help our customers establish a governance structure that's resilient, it's adaptable, and it's equipped to handle both current and ongoing emerging compliance needs. This is especially relevant as we see global regulations like GDPR, the AI Act, the Digital Operational Resilience Act, otherwise known as DORA, shaping these regulatory requirements. We know the importance of understanding the role that these laws play in how our customers choose their technical partners. The key consideration here for you and for your internal teams is to verify and ensure that the AI tools you're scaling are compliant and that they're built in alignment with legal regulations. And that as these requirements develop and change, your vendor is willing and able to adapt with them. When they are, you can focus on your core mission and grow confidently. So, how do you do this? This has to be a shared responsibility between you and your technical vendor. It is absolutely a partnership. At GitHub, we offer white glove support with a team of dedicated solution engineers, legal and compliance experts, and account executives who understand the unique challenges of your industry. And as I mentioned earlier, we have that GitHub Trust Center as a one-stop transparency shop. This is the GitHub approach, and we are very proud of it. But it's also not the only way forward. And so no matter which AI tool you choose, you need to prioritize working through these governance details at the start of your adoption process. If your vendor is not willing to work with you to address these requirements from the get-go, you're going to hit roadblocks along the way. What I think really gets to the heart of our session is that this AI journey shouldn't be a solo journey. Scaling AI responsibly requires collaboration, transparency, and a partner that seeks to earn and maintain your trust every single day. As the regulatory landscape and technology both evolve, having a trusted partner is crucial so that organizations can navigate this dynamic environment. We are committed to being that partner for the long term. We not only provide industry-leading security, but we also back up our words with robust contractual commitments. Like our leading IP indemnity, our transparent policies, and continuous product updates to ensure compliance. Our three-layered approach includes leaning in on existing legal safeguards, adding state-of-the-art technical mitigation, and wrapping it all in clear, easy-to-understand contract protections. All because we recognize that organizations need more than just technology to stay compliant and to accelerate human progress. For many of you, navigating a complex regulatory environment is just part of your job, but it doesn't have to be a barrier to your innovation. At GitHub, we are more than a tech vendor. We're a partner committed to working with you every step of the way so you can focus on driving business value to your customers and on accelerating human progress. I am now thrilled to hand it over to our Chief Revenue Officer, Elizabeth Pemberl, who will share more insights on bringing AI to life in your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. Hello, universe. Thank you. Hello, universe. I'm Elizabeth Pemberl. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at GitHub. And like Kyle, I joined the company almost 10 years ago. And every universe reminds me how special this community is. Before joining GitHub, I worked in the public sector, so I know firsthand the complexities of deploying innovative technology in regulated industry. And that experience and some firsthand experiences made me really appreciate guardrails and compliance and controls that go into place in those implementations. In my time in government, we did move more slowly than other industries when adopting new tech. That was typically for good reason. But what's been so surprising about AI and Copilot in particular is that our customers in highly regulated industries have been some of our most robust adopters at scale. It's because they understand the massive benefits that AI is bringing to their organization. Things like productivity improvements, operational efficiencies, risk reduction, managing the regulatory and compliance requirements that Shelley mentioned. Gen AI is proving to really be the competitive advantage that's separating the market leaders from the rest. And we get to work on this every day. You've heard the stats this week. We're working with more than 77,000 organizations, 1.8 million users. We are the world's most trusted and widely adopted Copilot developer platform. And since we were here a year ago, last year's Universe, we've shipped lots of new Copilot innovation. You heard from Thomas yesterday about all of the new features coming your way. But getting the most impact, especially in these regulated environments, comes down to what happens after day one, how you adopt Copilot at scale. So Shelley shared insights on how you navigate the landscape to arrive confidently at day one. Now let's discuss a little more about what's required to adopt at scale and extract the most value out of your investment. At GitHub, we've helped lots of customers on this journey, and we've learned a bit along the way. And as Shelley shared, it won't surprise you, the brilliance is in the basics. Our customers aren't simply banks or healthcare systems. They're tech companies with leading software development organizations in their own right. And they face intense competitive pressure. They're looking to responsibly accelerate innovation at the very edge to grow their market share. And transforming how they deliver software is what's really unlocking that edge. You know, since we first shipped Copilot, we've conducted lots of studies, we've gotten lots of really great customer evidence. We know Copilot drives developer velocity. And when you can actually adopt at scale, you realize the full impact. But implementing at scale, particularly in regulated industries, again, does not start on day one. Because you're not just adopting a tool, you're adopting a new way to think about and interact with code, establishing a brand new way to innovate. The journey you are on is actually more about people and change management than it is about AI. So what have we learned? Well, each Copilot journey, of course, is unique. But the good ones, the ones that have been successful, have started with a plan. Starting with a contained rollout where you can work through the friction points that come up and you can celebrate early success. So first major takeaway, define that success and create a baseline so you can measure it. Copilot is an investment in your developer experience, and that's going to mean different things to every organization. So start by taking stock of what you're measuring in your developer experience today. Define those KPIs, redefine those KPIs, look at them through the lens of the specific goals and use cases you need to drive, and then come up with a plan about how you're going to collect and analyze that data. This is an iterative process we see in our customers, right? This metrics journey, but you need to start with a framework in place. It's been an iterative process for us. We are continuously learning alongside you, evolving our own APIs to improve the metrics we have available. We GA'd the Copilot Metrics API with product usage at the team, organization, and enterprise level. And that data, by early 2025, will provide at the user level. This kind of information is an important input to give into your plan so that you have information on usage patterns, training opportunities, you can figure out what's working, and you can bolster those internal champions. So now that you've defined success, you have your KPIs, it's time to figure out who gets to use Copilot first, right? The anyone and everyone approach, sort of open door policy, less successful we've seen in regulated industry. You need to start with a manageable, controlled cohort. A best practice we've identified is about 10% of your development population adopting GitHub Copilot in those first 90 days. From there, you can take a team-by-team approach based on the outcomes you're trying to drive, starting hopefully with A, the teams that have the most to gain, and B, the teams you know will embrace change and be internal champions for you. Got your metrics, your success plan, now you have your team. It's time to build your phased adoption plan with clear entry and exit criteria and commitment to work through any blockers that arise very early before they become cemented, systemic issues. The one-size-fits-all plan has also had mixed success in most of our customers in regulated industries because you have different personas. Make sure every persona is identified in that plan and has what they need to be successful. Champions, administrators, developers, they all play their own roles and they'll all run into unique challenges. So make sure that plan is set up so that they can each be successful with their own training and enablement journey. An example we've identified, early in career developers often need more help in that initial prompting work. And then regardless of the persona, nothing beats hands-on time in the tool. Champion things like hackathons and workshops. Let your developers test the limits of Copilot, explore new models, see firsthand how AI can accelerate their development. Okay, so we've graduated from initial onboarding. We're at that 10% mark. Now it's time to do a little celebration, that's important, but the work continues. It's time to up the ante, set a bold but achievable goal for widespread adoption. From our perspective, what good looks like is about 80% of your developers engaging with Copilot actively over a 28-day period. That's our North Star. That to us is not just a usage statistic, but it is a clear signal that Copilot has become an integral way your developers are working every day. The difference between that 10% getting to 80, it's people and culture. Those are the difference makers between success and failure of widespread adoption. So find your influential developers, help them get creative early, empower them, let them spread the word. Lean on them as your internal champions to share best practices, to promote the tips and tricks they've learned. Then another best practice is ensuring you have executive support throughout the process. Make sure your executive sponsors are engaged beyond that day one point to amplify success, help you remove those obstacles, and continue to drive alignment between your company goals and what Copilot is helping you achieve. So with the backing of your executive sponsors, the support of your internal champions, you've now got a growing group of users. You're creating the ingredients to build this thriving internal community. But just because you build it, they will not come automatically. It is time to do some marketing. You need to market your community internally, work with your champions to develop a plan that makes all developers understand how they can onboard, what best practices they should be following, and where these resources exist to support them. We can help you on the way. We have lots of open source training opportunities, the GitHub adoption framework. We have professional services offerings. We have partners. We will work with you on this journey to make sure you have the right level of support. Which brings me to my next point. We see success where companies are investing in their own journey, oftentimes with outside experts. This is especially helpful in highly regulated industries, given how complex your journey can be. Because remember, this is not just a journey on a tool, you're fundamentally changing the way your company works, the way your developers build code. You have those open source and training assets I mentioned, help from GitHub expert services, or many partners building industry-specific solutions that will help optimize your Copilot journey, getting you to that 80% mark. With expert services at GitHub, when they're engaged in a customer, we see a 100% increase in durable usage of Copilot in the first 3 months of implementation compared to customers who do not invest. Okay, we've reached adoption at scale. Let's imagine we've now hit the 80% mark. Now it's time to go back and meaningfully track and demonstrate the impact of Copilot in your organization, right? We know that every organization works differently, so we're going to revisit those initial KPIs and figure out how we're doing, monitoring and analyzing what you laid out at the start so that you can understand your progress. Copilot benefits The things in the day-to-day experience like simplified workflows, task automation, remediating vulnerabilities, they are important means to a much more compelling end. Macro things like increasing development velocity, improving code quality, helping you navigate compliance and regulatory requirements, improving developer happiness, which means not only are you retaining your best talent, you're keeping your developers in your flow state. AI as a code assistant has been just the beginning part of a much more important, larger puzzle for our customers in regulated industry. And if you attended Thomas's session, Mario's main stage, Kyle's talk this morning, you know the next phase of AI is here. We're going to continue to introduce a range of new functionality that will bring Copilot across the SDLC. And I am incredibly excited that our regulated industries will be our first and earliest adopters, and that we will be your strategic partner on the journey so that we can navigate this next phase of AI together. With that, I am honored to welcome our customer, Sandhya Sridharan of JPMorgan Chase, here at Universe today, to explain how she and her team are cultivating a strong developer experience at JPMorgan in the age of AI. She is a CIO at JPMorgan Chase, global head of engineers, platform, and integrated experience. So I'll invite Shelly backstage to join me, and let's give Sandhya a warm Hubber welcome.
Thank you. That's you. Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. As Shelly mentioned, we operate at pretty large scale, right? And I think before we get down to, okay, I have the slide up. So, but before we start, as Shelly mentioned, I manage the engineers platform and integrated experience for the firm. But I want to also provide a little bit of a background, contextual background on the scale at which JPMorgan operates, right? So JPMorgan is the most globally, systemically important bank in the world. We move $11 trillion a day, right? Some of these, we also host some of US or probably the global economy's key infrastructure, right? So these are like essential services for the firm and essential services for the global economy. So it's very imperative that the platforms that we manage internally allows for that rapid acceleration, rapid scale, and at the same time, deep responsibility as well, right? The numbers speak for itself. 43,000 software engineers in the firm, almost 100% adoption of the engineers platform and experience, right? We do north of 2 million builds and scans a month, right? The numbers speak for itself, so I'm not going to go into detail. But the key point I wanted to call out is because we serve these key essential services for the firm, it's important that the platform scales and is available. And it's not just availability of 24/7. It's not availability in multiple availability zones. It's also not multi-region. We expect multi-cloud provider type of resiliency for these platforms, right? And then also, because it's not just the scale. What makes our environment more complex is the variation, heterogeneity in our environments, right? So in order to make sure that we simplify this complex ecosystem, that's where we form the engineers platform, right? To make it easy onboarding, security and compliance built into the platform, ease of discovery of information, self-service around environment provisioning and tools provisioning, and so on. Majority of you in the audience may be software engineers, right? The two things that my engineers always complain about is I spend way too much time setting up environments. I spend way too much time discovering information, right? And that was the reason why we formed the integrated engineers platform. And we've done a great job so far in terms of providing that self-service capabilities. But we also see the potential of AI as a game changer for us in that acceleration journey. again, here are some of the big bets that we plan to, for 2025. Definitely, unleash the power of generative AI. And again, very responsibly, right? We're still in a very early journey in that cycle. And then also, part of that is also, building autonomous and self-healing systems. And then how do we pivot as we transform ourselves? It's a constant modernization. How do we pivot to public cloud? And then, of course, kind of bring all of this together through engineers' practices, best practices, and experience.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we'd love to ask you a few questions about your journey. I know recently, I think it was DevUp was held, your internal JPMorgan Developer Conference, and we talked a bit about your presentation there where you worked on topics like celebrating engineering excellence, building an industry-leading engineering community. How do you think about developer experience at JPMorgan Chase, and where does AI fit into that journey?
Right. I mean, I think, going back to, why the integrated engineers platform was created, right? Because of this heterogeneity in our environments, engineers were actually doing a lot of context switching, which was impacting their day-to-day productivity, impacting acceleration. So my key goal is just relentless acceleration with security, stability, compliance, all as table stakes, really, right? So it's kind of like that's that integrated platform that comes together, right? Now with AI, we're seeing the potential of that multiplier effect of that acceleration. And of course, still very early stages. We have Gen AI solutions deployed to about 1/4 of our engineers. And we're looking at various ways. Right now, very early stage of exploration, looking at the benefits at various stages of the software development lifecycle. And I'm excited about the potential that it's going to bring in.
You mentioned context switching. I met with many technical partners yesterday who were so excited about the benefits they're hearing about from customers with Copilot extensions, because that experience is all now native in Copilot and they don't have to switch context again and again.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
all of those words that you mentioned were really music to my ears when you talk about security and safety and compliance. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey to move to the cloud and how your organization was then enabled to use Copilot? And like, what advice do you have for others in the audience who are in highly regulated environments and just really starting their adoption journey?
Great. I mean, I think I would like to break it into three, because it's a pretty loaded question. Lots to unpack in there, right? So I want to break it into three aspects. One is our journey to cloud. Second is around, adoption, how we enable the adoption. And then we can go into the regulatory. And the way I like to tackle it is, you have to set the foundation of all of these before even Gen AI comes in the picture, right? So once you have the foundation, and then with the complexity and the regulatory challenges that Gen AI brings in, then you have the foundation to tackle that. So our journey to cloud, especially with GitHub, actually started a couple of years, many years ago. So the way we look at cloud is whether it's a SaaS service or a self-hosted service on a cloud, right? Whether it's public cloud or on own private cloud. So we were on our journey with GitHub Enterprise Server, if you guys recall. I think 5 years ago, and then 2 years ago we just made a big pivot, and it was primarily to take advantage of generative AI and more advanced capabilities, and also faster. As a SaaS service provider, a lot of new capabilities get pushed out to production a lot faster than you would get from an enterprise server, right? So that was our motivation. So with a SaaS provider came its own set of regulatory security challenges. Right? Because we want to not just trust the vendor that they are doing all the right things. We want to protect JPMC's infrastructure just in case the SaaS provider got hacked, or with all the nation-state threats that's happening in the ecosystem, we want to make sure both sides we protect ourselves. So it was very important for us to make sure we separate out. So we created actually a service that interacts with GitHub Cloud, that behind the scenes, rest of the services that JPMC interact with. So we don't directly interact with GitHub Cloud size providers. So we have an abstraction layer that we built. That's one way, because we are extremely paranoid. Protecting the firm is our #1 priority, right? So that was one. And then, of course, we're working with GitHub team and so on, worked on making sure, we have a very stringent third-party oversight process. We do look at, we not only do our own checks around vulnerabilities and all of that, we have the vendor give us a lot of evidence and things. And also, talking about evidence, we get audited all the time. So it's very important that as capabilities, in terms of capability, we get full traceability of every single transaction, every event that happens across the portfolio. Then, of course, comes adoption. We were a big Bitbucket shop, and we've talked about it openly. And as part of our migration, I think the key thing for adoption is going to be that seamless adoption to GitHub source control, right? So that's a couple of the members I see sitting up in the front here. Like how is that seamless migration? So there's no adoption challenges. Today, there's a little bit of paradigm shift working in Bitbucket and Copilot in GitHub, but behind the scenes, all your repositories, everything gets migrated, all your plugins, and so on. Then comes to the actual regulatory aspect of it without even AI, right? So as I talked about the third-party oversight, and then as part of that, it's critical that I'm a firm believer the more complex you make security and compliance, the less secure we are.
Ooh, I like that.
So
yes.
yeah, so that's what it was important for us to bake in a lot of the security and compliance in the platform. Whether we work with the GitHub team as well as my own platform, making sure that layer is built in. So when the act of adopting the platform and the tools, the application developers feel that from day 0, when they're writing the code, they have access to all of these vulnerability check, compliance checks, and so on. Now add in AI, that's a whole another ballgame, right? So especially now, again, there is also go back to vendor side as well as the platform side, right? So I can go on and on and on about it, but right? So there's a lot happening, right? And then. But the key thing I want to differentiate is now you look at the risk that LLM themselves pose, right? So our focus was really on code attribution and the origination, right? And then because it's key to have full transparency on and the lineage on and the origination of the code, right? Full and the legality, what we call it, transparency and legality of that the code recommendation that's come about, right? So that's one. And then, of course, working with our legal team, with the Microsoft legal team, making sure the data use agreement, the SLA agreement, and so on. But then on our side, we have a plethora of risk and control measures that we have put in place as well. Sorry, long answer to your question.
It's okay. I think what's been so cool about our working with you and your teams is just really the partnership that we've had. There have been so many of these hard issues that we have to address and that are new and evolving and new technology. And of course, there's history and years of being regulated as financial services. You have so much deep history in that, and sort of bringing the new tech on top, and then working together to kind of unpack these things and solve them together as we move forward to make it a really successful partnership.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So Sandhya, I was at the Universe years ago where we announced GitHub Actions. We were so excited. This was very cool, right? And when I reflect on what we announced yesterday and think about how far we've come and how much development has changed, it's a bit mind-boggling. And you are in an unusual position of sort of managing this incredibly scaled platform in a highly regulated industry while wanting to deliver the very best new innovation to your engineers. How do you think about that push-pull in your role?
Well, I think, one thing, we all kind of have agreed after probably decades of doing this role is the developer persona is the most difficult persona to please. right? It is absolutely, I know, it is, right? So I think, kudos to my peers in the industry who do this job really well, right? But again, especially with all the tools that are available, and if you look at, some of the early use cases with Gen AI, we're really tackling, if you look at the SDLC phase, really that build, integrate, test. That's kind of like the early set of use cases majority of us are tackling, right? There's the entire gamut of design, ideate and design, deploy and operate, troubleshooting, AI ops types of use cases. So, and also, talking to my peers in the industry and also at JPMorgan is, some of the best teams spend about 30 to 40% of that time in that coding, testing phase. That's just, so we're really looking, if you're getting 20%, 30% productivity today with an AI tool, you're really looking at 30% of that 30%, right? So really, where is the rest of the time being spent? Setting up environments, because our dev environment, our cloud environments have become complex. Discovery of information, right? So that's where we're spending a lot more time, is how do we reduce that cycle, right? Especially discovery of information, we've got some early use cases going on with, like, we have curated and non-curated content. How do we put that through, a chat, a Q&A type of integration, whether built in within the IDE with Copilot, or we have an integrated portal with a ChatGPT type integration. But but we want developers to spend more time in the IDE. They don't want to be context switching. So more, as you're coding using Copilot, you're able to get that information in the context of what you're doing, right? And then of course, then you're looking at more advanced use cases around environment setup. This is where I'm hopeful that we'll get a lot more capabilities, from the team here. And then, of course, as part of the environment setup is the day two operations of it around, technology lifecycle management, your Java version upgrades, Python upgrades, and so on. So this is where engineers are spending their 70% of their time. And they don't enjoy doing this. They would rather write code to generate that business value. So I think that's where we're spending time. And I think one thing I want to mention is more around, we have put together a 15-step risk and controls process just for Gen AI. I know it sounds super heavyweight, but it's very early, and I feel like it is important. It's all about transparency, right? What are the use cases you're going to go after? Who are your sponsors? This is our commitment to responsible AI across the firm, that we want to provide full transparency. What experiments are being run? And then what data is being used? What is the data usage request process looks like? So it's a pretty stringent process, and I'm sure over a period of time it can get lightweight, but for now, we go through that process, and we've built a discipline so that we can accelerate fast, given if we establish this process as well.
That's great. Well, JPMorgan is the epitome of deployment of generative AI at scale in a highly regulated environment. And so the journey is not over. I look forward to a year from now to hearing about your success. And we just thank you so much for your partnership and for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.